Yeah, thank you very much, Omari. Peace. Appreciate you having both Minty and myself on here. Breakdance Wolves, Indigenous Pirate Radio. And we all released a statement. And it was, in solidarity with a whole bunch of other Native organizations, Chief Seattle Club, Seattle Indian Health Board, United Indians of All Tribes Foundation. And the onus of that letter or of that response, Omari, was we have a whole bunch of probably well-meaning, largely white, progressive liberals in Seattle, as is wont to happen in Seattle, where there's white, progressive liberals. And that's cool. And they want to have their direct action because right now they're feeling woke or whatever it is. However, the impetus of our statement was we not only see the irony, but we also see historical colonial themes repeating themselves when you have a whole bunch of predominantly white protesters going to harassing and going into the private spaces of an indigenous woman, going to that place, invading her privacy, and in the name of progressiveness, making her feel uncomfortable on occupied land in a city that's named after a Native person. That's something that we saw, and according to our statement, is backwards. It's the opposite of progressiveness. Absolutely take her to task along with every other elected official about their public stances in public places. But don't make this indigenous woman, this indigenous person feel scared, feel endangered in their own private spaces in a city on occupied land.
Wow. All right. And so Minty, maybe you can follow that up as to like, when I read the press release, it was like, man, this is our sister. This is our aunt. I mean, it sounded very personal. In the hood, we'd be like, man, this is almost fighting words. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you can express a little bit more, actually, as a Native woman, why there's so much passion around this.
Thanks, Omari. We're passionate. Both Gyasi and I have grandsters who are Native and Black, and we've grown up in the Native community. And I tell people this is personal. This is personal being an Indigenous woman, because we are 10 times more likely to disappear in some areas of this country than anybody else. We are 5 times more likely to be raped or kidnapped or beaten by somebody who is not from our community. Rarely are people prosecuted for stealing us. Missing and murdered Indigenous women and children have not decreased numbers. We are still disappearing at the same numbers as pre-COVID. This is still a serious problem. There's a reason that the Violence Against Women Act had to make sure that it also talked about Native women. And so we are not new to this. This is not new at all. And Deborah Juarez has been intricately involved with us making sure people understand that this is a real fear. This is a real concern. We struggle to survive in this area. And to have people come to her home is fighting words. I would tell you, there are plenty of people who have different opinions on what should be going on with defunding and other aspects of this revolution. And I know where I stand. I don't have to agree or disagree for me to demand that I will protect my sister. I will make sure that she is okay. And when we have these kind of lightly veiled threats, we have you standing on people's houses and shouting things that are vile, that have her frightened, she cannot leave her home. Coming from largely non-Native people, it looks familiar. Whether your intention is not matching your impact, it looks real familiar.
Just to interject, to add to that, keep in mind she's an elder. And so that's an important fact. So you have not only a person that's a member of our community that a whole bunch of people that aren't from our communities are going to see. Okay, that's violation enough, but think of if 50 white people showed up at Larry Gossett's house. That's a problem.
That's a problem.
And that's a problem that we're gonna have to get involved with, because we don't play about that with our elders, with our relations. And again, the fair game is in the public space, in the public discourses. Absolutely, definitely take them to task if you disagree with something. Cool, but to do something like that against our elder and our relative, nah. And where they're feeling uncomfortable in their own home, we're not going to go for that, Omari.
So, Gyasi, just to follow up on that, and what we talked about on the morning show this morning is that the statements that we saw didn't seem very political at all. As in, like, man, you know, the coalition that you have isn't saying that people should be for her political position or against her political position, right? I mean, it's not a political statement that you're making. It's more of a respect statement.
It's more protecting our relative.
Yes, and we will protect her.
That's right. It's
that has to happen.
Man, you know, this is being on the Zoom call with you has brought like a whole nother layer. I'm so glad that we had the call because, you know, you read it, you read the article and you keep going or whatever, but you guys are very, very serious. I can tell in the tone, you know what I'm saying, and everything else, the passion in your voice, that you really feel disrespected.
We do. You know, it's we're invisibilized as it is, right? And our women are important and sacred people. And what Americanized politics have a different connotation when you are sovereign people, right? So, you know, we don't need to have a political opinion to know that she will be protected, and that people who come into that idea of we're going to bring smoke to her house, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.